Hey there, creepy peeps, and welcome to another Tuesday video. Today I'm going to be talking about The Haunting of Hill House in a book versus movie review. Really quick though, before I get into anything else, I want to say thank you to my creepy patron peeps for your support of my channel. Thank you guys so much. If you want to find out the perks to being a creepy patron peep, you can follow that link in the description. So I did do a review of The Haunting of Hill House like 2-ish years ago. I'll link it in the description if you want to check it out. It's very cringy, like all my old videos are, but I'll summarize it here also. I'm not going to go too in depth with the book because I feel like I've talked about it enough times since that review. Also, like, I feel like you guys pretty much know I love the book. I loved that Nell is an unreliable protagonist. So in the book, it's all from Nell's point of view, but we don't know, like, we never get an answer as to what is actually going on. So we don't know if kind of everything is just going on in Nell's head and maybe nothing supernatural is happening, but she's imagining it so because her mind is so broken, or the house is actually like malicious and haunted, or a combination of the two. We never know. I also love how the house in the book, like, I don't know, it could have just been me interpreting it, or I don't know if this was intentional, but the house kind of seemed like an entity in and of itself in the book. Not like as opposed to the house just being haunted and, you know, the house just being like brick and concrete and paint. Like, the actual house is kind of like alive, almost maybe like in the sense like rose red, like kind of in that sense, without it changing its structure like it does in rose red, but you know what I mean. Less that the house is haunted, more that the house is the entity. That's at least what I picked up on in the book. The show differs completely from the book. Well, it is set in modern day, which that's fine, with flashbacks to the past, and it's a family being haunted rather than a group of strangers brought together by a professor, like, conducting an experiment. The differences are endless. Like, I was completely fine with the changes. I thought they worked well with the story, and they made sense, especially given the fact that there have already been 2 film adaptations of The Haunting of Hill House. So it would have just felt like it just would have felt useless if they made like a whole nother adaptation and it just did exactly what the movies did and follow the book exactly. So I like that they changed it, and the way that they changed it made sense, and I feel like it still had the bones of the original story. So I was fine with all of that. I wasn't a fan, however, of the definitive answer as to whether Nell is mentally ill or something supernatural is going on. The show kind of answers this question by making all the Crane children sensitive to supernatural things in one way or another. I like it so much more when a story sets up, you know, like, I don't know, I just liked that it set up, the book set up the ability to read it from different points of view, not character-wise, but like you can read it many different ways. Like if it's all coming from Nell, if the house is actually haunted, or it's a combination. And the show kind of answered that for you, which I wasn't too much a fan of. So, like, as I mentioned, I love that the book doesn't afford the reader the luxury of knowing for sure what's happening in Nell's head. It's frustrating, sure, but it adds some mystery and it warrants multiple readings of the book. Personally, I wouldn't watch the show over again. Like, I watched it once, I'm good. Like, I feel like the story was told and there's a definitive perspective that Flanagan took with the story, and there's not really room for interpretation, as opposed to like reading the book, which I have read multiple times, and you know, I feel like it warrants reading multiple times. Wasn't really a fan of how the spirits, like the ghosts and the spirits of the people in the house, were more prominent than the house itself, where I thought it was the opposite in the book. Lost completely in the show. They still make this point that kind of like the house is like the conduit for this, almost. Make it clear that it's the house. It's something with the house. But I feel like the spirits of the people there took over the show. Like, it was all about the spirits, not so much about the house. Basically, I could probably just make this a 1-sentence review and the video would be very short. Basically, I felt like the show was one person's interpretation of the story. I just, you know, which is valid, I just don't personally agree with this interpretation, and that's fine. I know this was a criticism that I saw in a few reviews of the show, about the family drama, like how it kind of took over the show. I liked the family drama personally. I liked that there were problematic characters. I did, like, you know, they were problematic characters, but they had a distinct arc over the course of the show. I thought they were compelling in their problematicness, if that makes any sense. Like, the one thing that I didn't like and don't agree with is the ending. Everything else I can chalk up to, like, this is one person's interpretation, so ultimately it's fine. I personally don't like it that much, but it's fine. This thing with the ending, I'm like, no, I just don't like it. You can't argue with me on this one. Well, you can, obviously, but I mean, the very, very end of the show, like the montage where, you know, it's kind of showing everybody after the big climax ending. I feel like they kind of made it seem like Hill House was almost a kind entity. No. I get that the family can finally, like, move on and thrive, which makes sense, like the Crane family. But the whole thing with the Dudleys, like, making sure that they both die in the house so they can be with their children, like, to me it seemed like the house made them very deeply disturbed, like, to want to do that. And the music and the tone of the part, like, made it seem very endearing and touching, where I was kind of like, this is disturbing. Like, I don't like almost like the house was doing them a service. Like, the house ultimately, like, kept their family together. Same thing with the Cranes, the members of that family that do die in the house. It almost seems like the house is kind of doing them a service because they can be together forever in the house, which I'm just like, no. Like, no, I'm sorry. At no point in the book did I feel like that house was a kind entity, that the house was kind to any of the characters. No. One thing that is for certain though, and I do like about the show overall, is that it seemed like they finished their story. It kind of reminds me of South Korean shows, like their dramas. So if any of you guys watch it, I know I've talked about it before. Usually they're only like one singular season, usually about like 16 to 24 episodes on average. They basically tell a story and then they're done. Very, very rarely do you see a second season of the show. I kind of like that sometimes with my shows. Like, don't get me wrong, I do like I do like shows that have gone on and like keep telling their stories. Like The Office would not have been good with just one season. Like, definitely, like, seasons 4 and 5 are like my absolute favorites, so I'm glad that they went on that long. But other shows, Walking Dead, go on for way too long, and I feel like they lose their steam. And then, like, just personally, I feel like The Walking Dead is gonna just end up ending on a bad note. Like, it's just gonna end on fizzling out, and everyone's gonna remember when it used to be really good at the beginning, and then, you know, be sad that it had to end so horribly, like with people hating it, more people hating it than liking it. I like that this story was told and is done. I did see that Mike Flanagan said he wouldn't continue the story of the Cranes, which I'm like, yes, don't do that. That would be dumb. He feels like their story was told, but he said he would be interested in an anthology surrounding Hill House with different characters, which I'm still kind of like, no, don't do that. Regardless, in any way, if they continue with the season 2, whether it's with the Crane family, which I don't think it will be unless they find a different director, or it's without the Crane family, I'm not gonna watch it. Like, I'm just gonna pretend that this season is the only season. Overall, even though it probably didn't sound like it in the video, I did like the show. Like I said, it's not gonna be a show that I go back and rewatch, but I thought it was a compelling story. It was a compelling adaptation, and they did it well, ultimately, just, you know, regardless of what I feel about the ending. So, you know, I liked it for what it was, but the book is still the best. So much love for Shirley Jackson. I'm really glad though that the show kind of popularized the book again. Like, so many people came in after watching the show and they wanted to read the book. And not only that, I saw so many people excited to read the book because like the show was so good. And I even warned them too. Like, I just thought it, like, because I didn't want anyone to come away hating the book. I was like, I just want to warn you, it's really different from the show. Like, the show changed a lot of stuff and they were still really excited to read it. And I even suggested other Shirley Jackson stuff for them to read if they liked that. So I really like that the show kind of brought her work back into the spotlight a bit, because she's one of my favorite writers. I think her stories are really, they can be really terrifying and they're really creepy. So I'm happy about that. If you've seen the entire series of The Haunting of Hill House, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about it, and especially if you read the book as well, let me know how they compare for you in the comment section. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new here and become a creepy peep today. I post videos Monday through Friday, and you can ring that notification bell down there to be notified every time I post a video, even though it doesn't always work. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay strange. Bye!